Am I the a-hole for not caring that my step and half siblings want nothing to do with me? I, 18 male, live with my paternal grandparents, and right now things are tense with my mom, and one reason for that is my paternal side of the family, and my step and half siblings. My dad died when I was about 4, around the same time my mom was getting married. My parents divorced when I was about 1, and I don't think they were on very good terms at the time. When mom remarried, she tried to end all contact with my paternal side of the family, which made them sue for visitation in court, and they won. It was more than my mom and her husband agreed with, so they tried to fight it often, and there was always this back and forth to court over me. I was adopted by my mom's husband when I was 7 because mom didn't look up the law accurately enough and they thought it would remove my paternal grandparents' claim for visitation. It didn't, and her husband never liked me because I loved my paternal family and wanted to spend time with them. The reason this was a huge deal is because neither my mom nor her husband had extended family between them for one reason or another. And that meant my step-siblings had no extended family, and neither did my half-siblings when they came along. But I had a massive extended family, and I went on vacations, got gifts, was taken places, and overall had grandparents, and cousins and aunts and uncles that none of the other kids had. My paternal family wanted nothing to do with my steps, or halves either, and that was the cause of more arguments than I can count. My mom's husband told me if I wanted him to take the adoption seriously and actually be my dad, I would fight for his kids to be included. When I didn't, he made his true feelings about me known and how he saw me as more work than I was worth. My step and half siblings were resentful for what I had and jealous of it too. There was always some fight when I had a school play or a football game and I had my extended family show up. Same thing for any grandparents' day event we had in school. I had grandparents, they didn't. My grandparents showed for me and not for them. The resentment and anger got worse as I got older, and my mom told me that if I didn't fix things, I'd need to leave once I turned 18. Because it wasn't fair for me to live there as an adult and not share the family with them. So I moved out on my 18th birthday. My mom hadn't expected it, and it pissed the steps and halves off. Things with my mom got even worse when I asked my grandparents to adopt me. Before that, we looked into reversing the step-parent adoption, but that was not something I could do. Mom told me it was so disrespectful to say F off to the man who raised me. She didn't even care that she's not legally my mom anymore. All she cared about was her husband's name is no longer on my birth certificate. We don't talk much since I moved out 7 months ago. When we do, it's fighting or tension. Now my mom's mad because she told me recently none of my step or half siblings want anything to do with me, and I didn't care. She told me I grew up with siblings and should care, and I should be heartbroken that none will talk to me. I told her I have cousins my own age, so it's not like I'll be alone. That only ticked her off more, but it's true. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. I'm curious if you know why your parents' marriage ended. It could be a clue into understanding your mother's behavior, because she is either batshit crazy delusional or an aggrieved woman who hasn't been able to put the past behind her. At this point, you are an adult. Stay with your grandparents who are being supportive, and go no contact with anyone bringing drama into your life. I would suggest you get some counseling to help deal with your past. It can help you be a better person, parent, and partner in the future. For years, she used to say my dad cheated on her. I found out that wasn't true, and she'd said that because she wanted me to want nothing to do with his family. The real reason for the divorce I have no idea about. Neither do my paternal family really. They believe it could be about money, but they can't be sure. The audacity of your family to try for inclusion in activities with your paternal family who have no relation to them whatsoever. It was a good move to have your grandparents adopt you. Someday, your siblings may realize how outrageous it was to expect a family that is not their own to foot the bill for all the activities that you went on. I don't think they will. They seem to be growing up with the belief that you are obligated to do that stuff for any kid who's close to someone in your family. It's really sad that an adult can't petition to have a deceased parent who had no record of relinquishing parental rights put back onto their birth certificate. I know, I'd have loved the chance to reverse it, but the adult adoption by my grandparents helped at least. I'm glad your father's family is awesome. Your mother and stepdad had the ability here to make a healthy and inclusive family for all of you. They chose not to, and that's on them. You go on and live your best life with a family who actually treats you well and loves you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for feeling like it's not my job to make sure all the kids at my ex's house have just as much as our 2 sons? I, 32 male, have 2 sons, 10 and 8, with my ex-girlfriend. Our relationship ended 7 years ago, and since then we have shared custody of our 2 kids. What this looks like is every other week during the school year, then every 2 weeks during summer break. Up until last year, all expenses for the kids were split evenly among us. This changed in April of last year because she was struggling to afford all the kids in her household, our 2, plus her stepdaughter and her baby daughter. She wanted child support, but instead, I took over certain expenses instead, and the judge agreed it was fair. I pay for medical and dental expenses, and she no longer has to pay half. Our younger is on regular meds, so this does alleviate the strain on her significantly, because medical expenses were pretty costly every month even with insurance. This was apparently not enough to make things equal between all the kids, and my ex and her husband have complained that my sons have a better quality of life overall than their stepsister who's 7 and their half-sister who is 15 months old. My ex is currently pregnant again, so another child will be joining their household in the next few months. There were fights about summer camp because our boys are going this summer, but my ex and her husband cannot afford to send his daughter. Before the summer camp issue was a field trip issue. They feel like I could share the cost or gift the experience to this little girl so she can have the same experiences as my sons. My ex's husband told me I should feel responsible for ensuring all kids have just as much as my sons do. I asked him why I would be responsible for that, and he told me for the benefit of my boys. He told me a decent person would do everything to make sure all the kids in a family are given the same leg up in life. I told him that's something he should be doing, as he's the person who blended his family with my ex's, and I did not. I told him he should be embarrassed to ask me to pay for his children to have a good life. My ex tried to convince me of this too, but I ignored her and then had my lawyer reach out and state we would move all contact to our family wizard. In return, she tried to sue me for child support. Or she looked into it, but she was told that would not be likely because financially it would not be considered a requirement when I pay more for our children already per last year's amended court order. I have been consistent about using the app, but my ex still brings up the topic of making things fair and equal for the other children in her home. I have replied once on there, stating I will continue to support our 2 children but not hers. For now, she is keeping it all to the app, thankfully. I don't exactly feel guilty about this, but I had wondered if people would find me a little petty maybe for my hard stance on this. I could afford to help but choose not to, and I know the kids are innocent of all the issues between the adults. That's basically the only reason I'll ask if I'm the a-hole. Not the a-hole. It is not your responsibility. It was her and her husband's decision to have more kids. It is on them to figure out how to finance their decisions. Ideally, they would have done that before getting pregnant again. You are the dad of half of the kids. You are not the family ATM. And her husband trying to guilt trip you is the icing on the cake. Wow. It surprised me to hear him try to guilt me into this. I can't imagine trying to pawn my responsibility to my kids off on someone else, especially not my spouse's ex. Yeah, that takes balls. Lazy balls, but balls. Imagine feeling like it's not your job to ensure your kids have a head start in life, but it's the job of your wife's ex. What a wonderful never land he must live in, glitter and all. Not your monkeys, not your circus. For 2 people struggling to give their already 2 kids comfort they want them to have, they don't seem very responsible adding another kid on the way, do they? Oh well, stick to your guns. And if she pushes, you may have to start looking at 100% custody to alleviate the imbalance. Not the a-hole. I wouldn't be able to get 100% custody unless they were unable to feed and take care of my kids. But so far, that has never been an issue. I hope it stays that way. Even then, it would likely not end in 100% custody and just trying different things to help them. Adding another child had me a little speechless when I was first told. But they wanted their child together to have a sibling close in age to be close with. That's what they have told people anyway. They can't afford 2 kids. 3 should be a cakewalk. Their cognitive dissonance is deafening. Maybe they felt so sure I was going to help support their other kids. Nothing could surprise me too badly after her husband asked me to pay for his kids. Last story. Am I the a-hole for sticking up for my husband and refusing to be in contact with my parents until they apologize? My husband borrowed my dad's truck almost 2 weeks ago to haul our old wash machine. He cleaned the bed and filled with gas when finished. Absolutely zero issues with the truck when he dropped it back off. I'd seen my dad twice within a week after use. Nothing was said about the truck. This Monday, I went over with my son, and he instantly confronted me saying he wanted me to send my husband over. I asked if he needed help with something, and he said to have a talk, but he didn't want to tell me why because he didn't want to stress me. I pressed what the issue was, and he goes on about my husband breaking the latch to his roll-top bed liner and the backup camera. I was shocked and apologized if that's what happened, but if he did break it, I can guarantee he has no idea. Or he would have said something to him when he dropped the truck off, or at a minimum came to me. He insisted he knew, said it was obvious, all but calling my husband a liar without using the word liar. I still insisted if he had, he must not have known or realized, because he would have said something. I offered to pay for repairs if that was the case. He refused, just insisted I send my husband over, not tell him why, and let him handle the situation. I got upset and yelled at him at this point that he was trying to treat my husband like a child. If there was an issue, why didn't he call my husband? And he only wants to do this to humiliate him and try to catch him in a lie, which isn't the case. I pointed out he wouldn't do this to my sister's husbands. Anyways, he was upset I stood up for my husband and I left shortly after. I discussed the situation with my husband and he said yes. The backup camera was not working when he got in the truck, but assumed my dad knew because it said service needed on the screen. As far as this latch, he has no idea what he's talking about and said that when he put the liner top back down it was on fine. But admitted he never latched anything, so he would have no idea if that was broke or not. But the way my dad describes the damage, there was no way he did that, because when he dropped the truck off, it did not look the way he's claiming. My husband attempted to talk to my dad in person, and my dad just yelled at him, telling him he was bullshitting him, and he knows what he did, and he damaged the truck. My husband insisted, and my dad went as far as saying, "I took pictures of the damage. I know you did it." My dad refused to hear my husband out. My husband at that point was not going to argue with him and left. My dad never showed him the damage or these pictures of the damage, just described and yelled at my husband that he's a liar and knows what he did. My husband is taking it better than me. My husband is adamant he did not do anything to my dad's truck and is confused why a week went by and anything could have happened in that week before he noticed it. I'm furious that he's just jumping to the conclusion that my husband damaged the truck and he tried to keep it a secret. What benefit would he have to do that? I'm furious with the way my dad is handling the situation and the way he treated my husband in this and how he expected me to just be okay sending my husband over blindly, especially when he didn't do anything. This isn't the first time my dad has treated my husband this way, but it's the first time I've put my foot down and told my dad it wasn't okay what he was doing. My mom has tried to text small talk to me, but I don't have much to say. I had to drop off an item today and took it in, and when asked if I wanted to sit for a bit, I said no, I'm okay, and walked out. I don't want to yell, and I knew right now we're going to end up arguing about it. Until my dad apologizes for the way he's acting, I don't have anything to say to him. I know my mom isn't the one who said anything, but she excuses his behavior and I can almost guarantee she's on the page my husband is lying, because that's just the way she is. They've never been that fond of my husband. I've chosen to go minimal contact for the time being. Am I the a-hole for refusing to have contact with them right now due to the situation? I feel bad because it's my parents, but I'm tired of them acting this way and I'm furious about the situation and how my dad's handling it. Now for the comments. This sounds very fishy. I'm thinking maybe your dad knew it was already broken and was using the opportunity to get at your husband to make him feel bad. I don't know. Has he had negative opinions towards your husband in the past? Opie said her dad wouldn't do it to her sister's husband, so you know her husband isn't the favorite son-in-law. He's definitely not. He even has a shirt with my sister's husband's face on it that says, "Favorite son-in-law." I wish I was joking about that. Would he normally lend your husband stuff? Or did he do it because he knew it was already broken and wanted to blame him? In the past few years, he's lent things off and on, a tool here or there. My husband has borrowed the truck before to do a similar run when we remodeled our kids' bathroom, so he's familiar with the truck. We hadn't borrowed it for months, and the few times we have it for an hour or two, and it's driven maybe 10 miles total. We've never had any issues, so this accusation came out of nowhere, especially given it has been over a week since it was used, and I had seen him twice since it had been used and nothing had been brought up. What's the "you wouldn't do this to my sister's husband" comment about? Has he always had an issue with your husband? If so, then it has to be your answer. I've known my husband since we were young teenagers, married 18 years at this point. He has refused to let go of the image of my husband as a grown man and still looks at him like he's the 13-year-old boy I met at middle school. My sisters are much older than me, met their husbands as adults and treats them as such. My husband has always been looked at as the dumb idiot. There's such an age gap that I have a kindergartner, and my siblings' kids are already married and have kids of their own. How would you even break a backup cam, except for damaging the lens on the outside of the vehicle? Mine turns on when my vehicle is in reverse and turns off when it isn't. There's literally no user interaction and nothing to break. That was my question when he initially brought it up. I was confused and asked if he was saying my husband backed into something and it was cracked, and he said no, that when you put it in reverse the screen turns blue and says service needed. And he thinks it's awfully coincidental that the latch to the liner was broken and that the camera and latch must be connected. My husband says he noticed the camera wouldn't turn on when he got to the truck initially leaving my dad's house, but assumed my dad knew about it, and the latch for the liner that he claims is broke, and now won't lay right. My husband says he has no idea, because when he dropped it off, it was sitting perfectly fine, and he never touched the latch because he hated the way they latched, and it always seemed finicky.